Okay. Hello, everybody. I am so excited about this topic today. Salvaging your blood sugar and reclaiming your metabolism. I am Ellie Anderson, for those of you that are not familiar with Eating Elevated, founder of Eating Elevated, obsessed with my amazing team there and obsessed with helping people heal. I'm a registered dietitian is my primary degree. And I have learned a ton about diabetes. Oh, I have a tiny human knocking at my door. Hold on 1 second. Talk to daddy. No, he's not. He's showering. Love that. Love that the boys share a room. That's always so fun. Okay, so sorry about that. And I am just amazed how what I was taught in school as a dietitian, being diabetes is one of the primary things that people work with dietitians about. It was so much more management with insulin and different types of insulin as opposed to management with diet and lifestyle. And then the reality of blood sugar dysfunction for so many Americans. So let's dive into that. I think a lot of people think and assume when they hear blood sugar of diabetes, right? It's like where the knee-jerk reaction goes to. But I think that most people think it's totally diet that leads to it, and it's totally diet that can fix it. But just like with so many things in the world we live in now, hidden disruptors are sabotaging your metabolism on the daily. Even if you're eating super clean or living a very healthy lifestyle, we're going to really focus on some of those sneaky culprits today and explain the effects that they can have on your blood sugar and the impact that that blood sugar regulation has on the rest of your body. As someone who really works with women and their hormones, the type of metabolic dysfunction that insulin and insulin resistance and increased blood sugar creates within a body, it's something that can no longer be ignored because of the reality that all of these things that we're going to talk about tonight can contribute to it. And I mean, the stats don't lie. The stats are saying that 88% of Americans have some level of metabolic dysfunction without having diabetes. So the reality is you can still eat healthy and have blood sugar swings that can wreck your metabolism and in general just wreak havoc on your overall health and well-being. So a question to ask yourself if you're wondering, is this me? Could this be me that's having some of these issues? Is, do you feel exhausted after eating? Like you eat a meal and you're like, oh, I could go to bed. What about brain fog and random cravings? And I think another thing, especially for the busy human, man or woman, is if you get to the end of the day and you're literally like you've ate a full meal and you're still starving, your hunger cues seemingly do not shut off, that is a sign that your blood sugar is off or your minerals are low and your body's like, I still need more. You haven't given me enough. My cells do not what they need to be happy and healthy. It's not just your willpower that can fight through that. That is your baseline physiology that's fighting for a chance at health and survival. And most people just think it's carbs and sugar that regulate this. But again, there are a lot of hidden forces at play. I just want to focus on that for a small second because these hidden forces are things that and there are people with blood sugar irregularities that look physically fit, that eat well, and that's not the primary driving factor of the blood sugar dysfunction. It's not their diet and it's not their lifestyle, although that is very important. We need to look at lifestyle as a whole, which is something that is overwhelming, but really, really, really critical to start to tap into overall health. So let's talk about some of the hidden realities that are disrupting your blood sugar. Number one, and I've talked about this a lot before too, but those endocrine disrupting chemicals, EDCs, are wreaking havoc on your endocrine system. So personal care products, plastics, thermal receipt paper, they expose us to chemicals that mess with insulin sensitivity. Now, there's a difference. I as often as I can, I'm the person that's choosing to have a receipt either texted or emailed to me. But there are times where you have to grab your receipt. Costco, super good example. If it's fewer and further between, okay, take a binder or maybe wear a glove. But if you're someone who is or child is working at a restaurant, handling receipts, or at a caribou, getting receipts to people, wear something to protect yourself from that thermal paper excretion, because those endocrine disrupting chemicals are completely man-made, and they're forever chemicals. They do not leave the body well at all. So those chemicals mess with our insulin sensitivity and our ability to regulate our toxin load. And over time, that increases the body's cortisol, because these toxins, they're not just toxins. They create stress within a body. They create stress within a gut. They create stress within the liver and eventually the lymph. And it has this trickle down effect through the rest of the body that we cannot ignore, because if we do ignore it, that's what leads to that metabolic dysfunction. It's stressing out the liver, so the liver can't do its job the way that it wants to. It's increasing your blood sugars while you're stressed. Cortisol has that trickle down effect. We'll touch on a little bit more. But if you have ever listened to my fight, flight, fawn, or freeze, I have a podcast on it. Fight or flight mode is designed to keep you alive. And so when we talk about chronic stress, we'll touch on this a little bit more. But what the body does when it's in fight or flight mode is it increases cortisol, which is a glucocorticosteroid hormone, steroid hormone. So it's a sugar hormone, essentially. And it increases your inflammation. It increases your blood sugar so that you have blood flow and you have nutrients, quick nutrients, because sugar is a quick nutrient, to run from the bear. So this process was designed so intentionally for our primitive instinct to keep us safe and healthy in a life-threatening situation. But your body can't differentiate between a high stress email or having too much forever chemicals in your body that are stressing out your liver, that's increasing your cortisol. Are you following? It just sees that increased cortisol, and that starts this tropic response within the body that's like, I am going to do A, B, C because I was triggered by D. So I'm going to do this sequence of action. And so that's how the body is working to protect you. And it's so brilliant and it's so smart. And I think we talk about fight or flight and being stuck in fight or flight like it's such a bad thing. And yes, it is exhausting, but it's so protective. So if we can tap into the why behind it, that's always the goal, is getting to the root cause. So swapping out simple quick fixes for this as a start. Swap out plastic for glass. Use environmental working group approved skincare. Incorporating stress reducing practices like breath work and walking. Taking a binder, taking something that's going to help your gut, make sure it's eliminating these things. When it comes to endocrine disruptors in the body, you have to make sure your drainage funnel is working. You have to make sure you're pooping every single day. It's the way that God designed our body to detox. And if we're able to poop 1 to 3 times a day, and they're good poops and you feel like you're emptying completely, it's at least a sign you're on the right track with getting some of these things out of the body, because that is the main elimination route. And if you're not, it's likely that those things are contributing to some dysfunction within the body. Reality number 2, just like I had started to talk about, over exercising and chronic stress. And I think that, this is something that before I really started to tap into trauma and more nervous system form and function, oftentimes when I was just working as an outpatient dietitian, it was, oh, you're stressed, so let's work off your stressful day with a good high intensity workout so then you can downregulate. But it's just a common misconception. And a lot of people think working out harder, like really aggressive high intensity workouts, is going to lead to a better metabolism. And that is something that is not necessarily true. In the world that we live in, it is not as simple as calories in is less than calories out and you're going to lose weight. There's so many more factors at play now, including gut health, including toxin load. And those things can really affect your blood sugars. So I'm going to talk at the end about a continuous glucose monitor, but I've been wearing mine for the past few days, and it's amazing how intentional the body is. After and during a high intensity workout, despite my my blood sugar is always being within normal, there's an automatic increase in my blood sugar because my body is reacting to that stimulus the way that it's supposed to. So if you're going from a high stress day to a high stress workout to them being still stressed about work, it's never going to stop that cortisol release. It's always going to try to give you what it can to help you run from the bear. So the body perceives this over exercising and these high intense workouts as a reason to continuously spike the cortisol, keep your blood sugar elevated, give you that sugar it wants and needs for your fast twitch muscles. And so this can ultimately lead to a metabolic slowdown because fight or flight mode does ultimately slow down your metabolism, which seems counterintuitive, right? It's like my cortisol is high, my blood sugar is high, but your body is like, I need to save and store as much as I can to keep me running from this bear. So do you see this constant cycle of stressed at work, high stress workout, back to stressed at work or home or whatever your stress is? Can be family, can be friendships, work, etc. I just use work as my example because that's usually my primary source of stress. And having an awareness of that so you can begin to set healthy boundaries is absolutely critical. But that cortisol and blood sugar elevation that I had talked about, that ABC response in the body, it is literally trying to protect you. So no matter how clean you're eating and how stable your blood sugar is outside of those things. So like I said, I'm doing a higher intensity workout, my blood sugar is increasing. Thankfully, it's still within a really healthy glucose range, but that natural mechanism within my body, despite not having anything before that workout that would increase my glucose, like I wasn't eating something before my workout, or taking a pre-workout that maybe would do that. It was just my body's natural reaction to it. That's how it's giving me what I need to make it through that workout. And it's so brilliantly designed. The body has the ability to create glucose, to create blood sugar from fat and proteins, not just carbohydrates. And it can't do the same with carbohydrates to fat and protein. So the liver is so brilliant, you guys, with all of the 500 things it does in our body. It can also take two different substances, fat and protein, and turn it into glucose and give your body what it needs to make it through those workouts without having to carbo load, which was a common misconception, I feel like, for most high schoolers. Like, I'm gonna have a pasta feed. It's just too bad. So much inflammation. So this chronic stress from either work or your workout can keep your blood sugar elevated even if you're eating super clean, because that's how that mechanism is designed to work within your body. So again, I'm using workout as an example, but it's the same stress within your body. If you're chronically stressed at work, your liver is going to constantly trickle glucose into your system to help you run from the bear. Brilliant. Thank you, body. You're doing such a good job of keeping me alive. Like, that's where instead of being frustrated, we have to be so thankful at the way that our body is trying to protect us from these high stress situations. But you have to start to find a balance. So balancing high intensity workouts with restorative movement, like walking with the weighted vest, Pilates, strength training, longer strength training duration with a full recovery, absolutely helpful, so critical. But what those things do is they allow your body to think like, oh, okay, I had a burst of exercise. I ran from the bear, and now I can fully recover and downregulate. So the bear must not be super present. And so that can make a huge difference for how the body is utilizing that cortisol surge and that adrenaline surge and what you can do with it from there to help it completely downregulate after. The other thing that I encourage women to do is cycle sync their workouts. I understand the endorphin rush of a high intense workout. Love that. But at the same time, there are certain times in your cycle where your body is going to bounce back even better. And that is usually from around day 12 of your cycle to day 18. From a few days before ovulation and peak ovulation to a few days after, you're going to find that your sex hormones are lending themselves to better recovery. They're not going to bottom out because they're all somewhat peaking around ovulation, except for progesterone, which is actually really good. Progesterone and cortisol have this really intricate and somewhat complex relationship where progesterone, which is more dominant in the second part of your cycle, it is more for peace. It's for tranquility. It's what makes us feel like, okay, I need to rest a little bit more right now during this time. It helps us feel good. It helps us feel grounded. So progesterone is so critical for our overall well-being, as well as for our fertility and our ability to progestate or grow an embryo. And so that's why it peaks after ovulation. Estrogen, on the other hand, it peaks through the first part of your cycle into ovulation and then dips, and that's where progesterone takes over. But estrogen and cortisol, while they communicate and they have a relationship, it's not like progesterone, where if your cortisol is high, if your stress is high, your progesterone is like, oh, all of what makes me pregnenolone, the little precursor to progesterone, all of what makes me needs to go to cortisol because I want to stay alive more than I want to make a baby. It's basic primitive biology. And so it's really critical to note that that stress can come from high intense workouts. That stress can also come from your job or a combination. And then the stress can also come from endocrine disruptors and this, that, and the other thing. But when we're looking at the fertility crisis that we're facing in our country, I think the stress and these hidden disruptors we're talking about tonight are so critical to address because of that cortisol progesterone balance and because of the inflammation that blood sugar creates in the body in the way that it's trying to protect us. So high intensity workouts for women are not necessarily a bad thing, but do them around ovulation, the long and short of it, because that cortisol is not going to bottom out progesterone, which is necessary for growing a little human. And then listen to your body and start to cycle sync for women around how you feel. Like build your workouts up to a peak around ovulation and then begin to taper. Give yourself some time to recover around your period and then jump right back into it. And I'm a person who I love to exercise. I love to exercise because I like to feel good and I know it's good for my body. So this is not me telling you don't exercise or be lazy. This is me telling you be super strategic about the way that you're exercising because your body will thank you so much for that. Men do not need to worry about this as much as women. Men do need to be aware of how stress is impacting their body. And if they're working a very stressful job, if they're the primary breadwinner of their home and they're stressed about that, obviously like COVID and inflation is super tough. Just handling their stress can really, really help because cortisol can deplete men's testosterone as well. So just making sure that they're handling their stress by lifting heavy weights. Yes, that can be by walking. They can do more rigorous workouts and exercises because they're on a 24-hour hormone cycle as opposed to about a 28-day for women. There was a question in the chat. What if you don't get your cycle anymore? That's a super good question. When it comes to perimenopause and menopause, I still encourage women to approach cycle syncing in the same way, but I encourage them to line it up with either the new moon or the full moon, depending on their symptoms. It's amazing how the body, especially the female body, is so brilliantly designed. Men too, don't get me wrong. The 28-day hormone cycle is just so amazing to me. It's just so intricate and God is so intentional with everything. But I encourage women in perimenopause and menopause to cycle sync just like women who are still fertile in their fertile window. And we have seen such great results with that. So they're still cycle syncing, but they're aligning it with the new moon or the full moon. So every new moon or every full moon, they're either they're on day one or they're faking their ovulation around that time. So they build their workouts up to a peak and then they taper down. And I encourage them to follow the same sort of schedule for fasting. And I encourage them to follow the same sort of schedule for sort of the foods that they're eating to support estrogen and progesterone to fake that cycle. And women get amazing results doing that because the body is so used to that cycle that even though it's not necessarily working with that cycle to procreate anymore, it still is super grateful for that intentionality behind the 28 days because that's all it's known for the last 40, 50, 60 years, depending on when you start that journey. So super good question. So I encourage the same thing for exercising and cycle syncing is just following that new moon or full moon pattern, and you'll see amazing results with that. Okay, spent a little extra time there, but I think chronic stress is something that really deflates a body, and it's something that we have normalized in our life. And I am one person who has been there 100%. I normalized chronic stress for far too long, and it wreaked havoc on my adrenals. It wreaked havoc on my thyroid. It wreaked havoc on my mental health, which we'll talk about in a little bit. And so if there's any greater encouragement I have for you, it is to recognize, please recognize, you have the ability to change any situation that is causing you stress, whether it's a relationship, whether it's work, whether it's you name it. You have the ability to shift that and give it to the Lord, have Him direct you with how you need to do that. But He calls us to care for our body. He calls us to love Him and serve Him. He calls us to love our family and serve our family, but also to honor the temple He gave us. And these situations where we're living in chronic stress, it's usually not serving our body or our mental health or our prayer life, depending on the person, in the way that God designed us to handle stuff. So please know that. And that's my biggest encouragement to you, is set healthy boundaries to try to contain the stress to start. And if whoever you're up against or whatever you're up against is pushing themselves back up against those boundaries and encouraging you not to set them, that's usually time for a change. And so if it is something that's more intimate in your life or really critical in your life, I encourage you to read the book Boundaries by Henry Cloud and just prayerfully consider where the Lord is leading you with it, because there are things that we feel, we can sacrifice our way through and be a buffalo and be tough. And there are other things where it's like, this is literally killing me and it's affecting my faith and my family. And I don't think the Lord calls us to sacrifice those things. But I'll hopefully find out someday. So we'll see. The next one, off the soapbox for that. The next one that's really critical to be aware of, again, as you could see, as we're going through even these top 3 things, you guys, these are elements that are they're constant in our lives. EMF and poor light exposure, constant exposure to EMFs, Wi-Fi, phones, smart devices. How many of you are on them 80% of your day? Me, I for sure am. And then I have these crappy lights my husband's obsessed with, these LED lights. I don't know, we're supposed to swap those out for incandescent. I've got my glasses on tight. But constant exposure to EMF disrupts glucose metabolism and insulin sensitivity. The EMFs create inflammation within your body, and inflammation increases blood flow and blood sugar to try to heal an area. So it is amazing how these EMFs that we're constantly being inoculated with, we're constantly surrounded by Wi-Fi. Every property you're on probably has 2 other properties overlapping with Wi-Fi signal. So it's just important to have an awareness of Wi-Fi protection. And then blue light. So a lot of LED lights contain blue lights. That's what gives them that bright glow instead of that yellowish type of glow. It suppresses melatonin, leading to insulin resistance and metabolic disruption. Why that's important is because your circadian rhythm plays such a huge role in your diurnal cortisol response. So cortisol and melatonin have, again, just like with hormones, a really intimate relationship. Your cortisol ebbs and flows throughout the day in a very normal pattern. It usually peaks about 30 minutes after you wake up, and then it dips, and then we get a little increase again around like noonish, and then it dips, and then we get another little increase again around like that 3-4 o'clock hour, and then it dips, and then it's time to downregulate and go to bed. So none of the peaks are as high as that first morning peak, but it's just like this really gentle, gradual pattern of cortisol ebbing and flowing throughout the day. Melatonin offsets the cortisol closer to the evening so that the body can downregulate and fall asleep and get into parasympathetic mode. And it's really, really critical to know that blue light, it makes your body think that you're seeing the sun. The sun has natural blue light rays. Not all blue light is bad, but the blue light off of our technology is not going to be healing. It's not going to be healing. So if we're constantly being exposed to blue light, the body's thinking, it's not time to downregulate and go to bed. Turn that melatonin off. I need to wake up. And oh my gosh, why was I starting to secrete melatonin anyway? Let's get some cortisol. Let's catch our second wind. And so a lot of times people will gaslight their melatonin at night because their body and their cortisol is maybe so off throughout the day that their melatonin will kick up a little bit earlier at night and they're exhausted and they're like, well, I could either go to bed at 8 or if I power through, okay, then I'll be up till like 11 or 12. Okay, we got to find, I'd rather have you go to bed at 8 than go to bed at 11 or 12. It's just that simple. Your body will thank you so much. And then as you adjust, it makes such a big difference. So just being aware of how these exposures can really mess with your circadian rhythm, your blood sugars, your cortisol, and your metabolism. I cannot stress the importance of sleep enough to individuals. If you are not sleeping, you are not healing. If you're not sleeping, you are not detoxing. If you're not sleeping, your body does not feel safe enough to let go of anything it's holding on to. So downregulation and deep sleep is really, 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 really critical for your overall well-being. And if your cortisol is too high, your blood sugars can interfere with your ability to downregulate and fall asleep. So these things might take a little bit of work right away. Obviously, we're talking about, there's quite a few more topics we're going to touch on. And you can see how some of this stuff can seem and feel very overwhelming. It's like, oh my gosh, yeah, I am exposed to EMFs every single day. Yes, I live a very stressful life. My encouragement to you is please know any step is a step in the right direction. And your investment in your health around some of these things. So someone had asked like EMF protection, jewelry. I've never tried the jewelry. I'm not really a jewelry person just in general, but I have EMF protection around my house. I have EMF protection on my phone. I have EMF protection on my computers. I invest a little bit more in that because I am so technology saturated. I prefer the Bodywell brand. They're more expensive. They work exceptional. I've tested them with an EMF meter and they are so great. They're so great. So I have the Bodywell products on my phones, computers, and around my house. My whole home protection system for EMF is called GIA. And I just got like, it covers like 600 square feet. So I have a few of them around my house. We don't have a huge house, so that's really nice for me when it comes to getting this stuff. And then my blue light blocking glasses that I use are Raw Optics, RA Optics. And I really like them. I have had many types of blue light blocking glasses through my whole life. I used to get headaches really, really frequently. So I actually started using blue light glasses to try to help my headaches before even knowing about blue light, really. And made such a huge difference for me. But these ones especially, I found with the close ratio of like being on a phone or being on a large computer screen, these ones prevent so much eye strain and optic stress that I didn't realize I was still having even with just like a blue light blocking glasses. So really encourage getting like a tinted lens ones with the spectrum that protects you against the phone nano waves. Kind of a lot right there. So if anyone has questions about that, pop them in the comments. But really, 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 oh, good question about the whole home system. GIA, GIA, whole home system. And there, I don't think I think it's just like levels. You just plug it into an outlet and it helps with the whole, like the outlets, that whole level up to 600 square feet. So it's stronger and that's why it's constantly plugged in as opposed to the ones that we just have on our phone. Noticed a huge difference in my kiddo's sleep when we did that. Huge difference, which I think is super cool. So yeah, these things though, you guys, these things are impacting not just us adults, these are impacting our children's blood sugars as well. Think of all the time they're spending on technology and think of how inflamed kids are. It's just it is so important to have an awareness of these things so that we can start to, so we can really start to unpack them in a way that's going to work not just for you, but for the family as well, because that's just so critical. And I just love them. There was a question, do you know if Raw Optics will use your eyeglasses prescription when you order? I do not know that. I actually think they will now that I'm thinking about it, because I do wear glasses, especially when I'm pregnant. My eyesight just absolutely tanks. I think you can order a prescription, but they would have it right on their website. They're really user-friendly to order from, and they do often run sales. So my encouragement is, as important as they are, please don't ever pay full price for them. You will get a deal eventually somewhere. Great questions. I know the EMFs can be a lot to unpack because they are, like I said, literally everywhere, but beginning to be aware of them can make such a huge difference, not only for your blood sugar, but EMFs are so important to be talking about just when it comes to cellular health in general. And just a quick note, this is why we have PEMF mats at Eating Elevated. And I encourage people who work often on technology or with technology to ground them, like grounding sheets are really good because these EMFs they're very influential on the cells and they can create a lot of cellular excitement. And that's not a good thing. So that's why sometimes you can feel like wired after being on your phone or computer for too long. It's like my eyes, I just need to downregulate. I feel overstimulated. So much of how designs are designed are to overstimulate you, to captivate you, to keep you on your phone or computer for longer. But the main thing that I am concerned about when it comes to EMFs, and I'll say this with a grain of salt, not implying too much. When I was doing a lot of my training down in Florida for muscle testing, there was a naturopathic doctor there who introduced me to EMF protection before I even had an awareness of, a lot about EMFs. And she was talking about a study that they were doing I can't think of what university it was. She was very closely involved in it. That was linking the EMF exposure to the higher and younger onset incidences of childhood cancer because these EMFs create cellular chaos and they create a lot of, again, excitement for your nerves and for your cells. And so cancer is rapid and unregulated cell growth, and it can be triggered by almost anything. It can be triggered by a pathogen, it can be triggered by an EMF. So she was talking really specifically about these baby monitors that everyone has that connect to Wi-Fi that we put really close to baby at night. And they were linking those things to either cancerous or benign tumors in infants. And she was so passionate about it. She had such a heart for babies. And at the time, my youngest son was Wesley, my second baby. And we immediately got rid of. It was enough to convince me. I'm like, I'm getting rid of every video baby monitor we have. It makes so much sense to me. If EMFs can create chaos within a body and in a little body where they're already trying to deal with so many things, and we know they can impact blood sugar. We know they can impact cellular regulation. We know that they can impact, getting headaches from them. Like they're impacting our cells, whether we like it or not. It was just really eye-opening to me at that moment. And so, yeah, you'll never catch me having a video baby monitor ever. I threw it in the trash. My husband's like, oh my gosh, Ellie, that was like $150. Like, don't care. Cancer's more expensive. Like, that's my attitude about a lot of stuff. So I'm kind of dramatic. Just to clarify, Body Well was the name of the brand you use on your phone. Yes, Body Well. It looks like a little credit card chip. Oh my gosh, this is so nice. It looks like a little credit card chip. A lot of people think that I can tap and pay with my phone, but nope, it's just EMF protection. So not only is it messing with your cells and your circadian rhythm, but why I was saying PEMF again, okay, I'll get off my soapbox in 2 seconds. PEMF helps re-regulate those cells that get energetically excited from the Wi-Fi and from the 5G, from all the things, our smart meters in our homes, like things we don't even know are happening. So PEMF is really grounding for those cells. And so our grounding sheet. So they're just like, hey, calm down. I'm going to take you from a level 10 to a level 5. We're just going to deep breath. And so that can be really helpful to re-regulate the body. I know that one is so critical to touch on. So I'm glad we could spend some time on it. Healthy foods that spike blood sugar. This is always one people hate. They hate it, but it's true. Oat milk, I pick on that one the most. But really any milk alternative, and even sometimes milks, can be super high in sugar or additives or gums or flavors. So just have an awareness excuse me, my favorite is Califia Farms organic. They have organic almond, organic coconut, and literally the organic almond one, literally it has almond salt and water. So that's what you want to look for, is something without the gums. Those are really hard on the gut. I prefer when I can have it raw milk. This pregnancy, I'm having a little bit harder time with it, but I still can do heavy cream or raw heavy cream. So that's what I'm putting in my coffee. The fewer the ingredients on the food, you guys, the better option it's going to be, and the less it's likely going to spike your blood sugar. Unless it's straight sugar, then that's different. But it would be a good, it's just sugar. Natural protein bars can be loaded with different types of sugar. And I did a podcast with the RAR bar founders, and they talk about that a lot, like sugar alcohol, sugar alternatives. So it is important to be aware that just because it's in a package and it seems like it's really clean, doesn't mean that it is. Flip it over, look at the ingredients. I don't even necessarily look at sugars as much as I look at added sugars. And if something has added sugars, I'm going to skip it 90% of the time, because unless that added sugar is like a cleaner option, I don't have time for it. And when it comes to the added sugars that are cleaner options for me, it's, can we get it from the earth? So honey, maple syrup, molasses, those are the ones that I like. Date syrup can be hit or miss, but it can be a good option. But that's usually like kind of where I cut it off. I don't really do much else when it comes to different types of sugar. Coconut sugar is one we'll use in our house as well. Kombucha can be really sneaky. I'll take a minute to touch on that, because I think good kombucha is great. A lot of kombucha, just like milk, is pasteurized. So you're going to want to make sure that the kombucha you're getting is raw, so that you're getting all the microbial benefits of kombucha the way that you should be getting it. And the microbial benefits are also what keep the sugars lower in the kombucha that you're drinking. And then even eating too much fruit all at once. An example of a blood sugar bomb. I love this when people think they're eating super healthy, and I love that they're trying. So this is no judgment, but it's like, yes, I started my day with a smoothie. I had banana, I added some berries, I added some honey, and I added some milk or oat milk or whatever it is. And it's like, okay, where's the fat? Where's the protein in that? Please, please give me one of those things. So when it comes to smoothies, if you're a smoothie lover, which I'm drinking my detox shake right now with some protein powder in it, add fat. If I'm making smoothies for my kids in the morning, I am setting my kids up to fail if I make them a smoothie that doesn't have fat or protein in it. And just like your kids, you're setting yourself up to fail if you just have like one of these super sweet. My kids love Cloud9 here in Albertville. They love it. Even if there's no added sugar in it, there's either sugar alternatives or there's fruit. And so it's so sweet. It's so sweet. I think as I'm wearing this CGM, I am going to go eat one and just see how much like those acai bowls can perk your blood sugar up. But if I'm making a smoothie for my kids, it is going to have full fat milk, maybe even heavy cream. It's going to have a few scoops of protein powder. It is going to have avocado. It's going to have full fat yogurt. Like, I am loading them up with fat and protein for the day, maybe some nut butter. Really makes such a huge difference for the metabolism of that. And for any of you that are clients at EE, we talk about this a lot: produce, protein, healthy fat. If you're just starting your day with something sweet, and the standard American diet has this so wrong, like starting your day with pancakes or oatmeal, or even, I love, my favorite, if I could have one meal the rest of my life, it would be sourdough French toast. It is like my favorite. And I put peanut butter and I put honey on it, and it is so good. But that is a normal breakfast off of pancakes, waffles, frozen pancakes, frozen waffles, oatmeal. No, starting your day with that heavy of carbs, especially kids, or cereal, starting your day with cereal, you're peaking your blood sugar so fast right away in the morning. It is creating this increase in your blood sugar, and the mouth talks to the gut, and it's talking to the pancreas, and it's saying, oh my gosh, there's sugar in this meal and there's a lot of it. So your pancreas starts working to secrete and create insulin and let it out so that it can take the sugar from the blood and pull it into the muscles, organs, tissue, cells, whatever's going to be using that sugar. That's what insulin does. Insulin is the key that unlocks the door that gets glucose out of the blood and into tissues. And so when your body is pumping out that insulin and you have excessive amounts of sugar, it's like, just go, get the job done. There's so much sugar. There's nothing buffering it. There's no protein. There's no fat. We have no other digestive signals that are telling us there's something other than sugar here. And that shifts your circulation and that increases your insulin. And that's how insulin resistance develops, because too much of this good thing, insulin is a good thing, the body ends up becoming resistant to it. It's like, oh, we've seen this time and time again. We're so sick of this insulin. We're going to let it unlock and put sugar anywhere. And that's where we get PCOS. And that's where we get all these insulin resistant type of diseases within the body, is this like high followed by then a low. So this insulin is working. It's like, okay, I'm going to pull this sugar into the cells. And so it unlocks, it lets the sugar in. And then because it was working so fast and so hard, it does a little too much. And so the blood sugar dips a little too low, a little too fast, and then we end up hangry. We crash. And this is where we end up reaching for another sugary snack. So this is like our midday coffee. I'm going to get a sweet coffee. I'm going to have a smoothie. I'm going to have something like, just a little treat before lunch. Or I'm going to be hangry until lunch. And we normalize that because the body it just bottoms out. It crashes after this high sugar, high insulin reality. So God, in his ever intentional design for the body, created a liver who can create and secrete sugar, synthesize glucose, and then let it into the blood to try to minimize the hunger experience. Okay. So the liver starts to work and starts to trickle out sugar while you start to chomp down your little treat, whatever it is. And then you end up with this high again. And then the body's like, oh my gosh, we had the liver making this, and now we have a snack that's all sugar. Insulin, we need you again. And so insulin is back at it and pulling things in, and then you have another low. And the same cycle repeats itself. Repetition. And unfortunately, with the food pyramid where it's at now, our plates for lunch are loaded with more carbs than they should be. And so we're overcarbing at lunch. High sugar, high insulin. We have a dip again. It's our afternoon slump. The liver starts working again, and it's just this cyclic reaction. So you have these highs and lows all the time. And then if you're having a bedtime snack that's high in sugar, ice cream, what do kids love for a bedtime snack? They're going to dip. It's going to make bedtime really hard. It's going to make sleeping through the night really hard. It's going to make having restful sleep really hard because their blood sugars are just trying to keep up with that low that they then experience after the fact. So always pair your carbs with a fat or a protein. And always think produce, protein, healthy fat. Produce is our word for carbohydrate at Eating Elevated, because honestly, the more you can start to reframe carbs into whole foods, the better off you're going to be. If God gave it to us in that form, it's usually going to have some sort of protective buffer like fiber or extra minerals. Like when you think of maybe the most sweet fruit on the planet, a banana, at least it's loaded with minerals as well, which also help with glucose regulation. And the gut and blood sugar. So we'll talk about that next. Oh, Emma, my practitioner in Stillwater. No, let me live thinking acai bowls are good for me. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Are you still on the call? No, I'm kidding. And someone had said, what about stevia or monk fruit? So I'm not necessarily opposed to sugar alternatives. However, and early in my health journey, I would say I used a lot. I was highly addicted to sugar. It was when I started my health journey, it was so much easier for me to give up bread and pasta in the forms of sugar than it was for me to give up like a cookie or chocolate. I'm a damer through and through. We love sweets. And so that was something I had swapped to. But then once you start to get a taste for real food, now I would say monk fruit is not even palatable to me because it's so processed still, and it goes through a refinement process. I would actually say stevia from the stevia leaf is the way to go. So if it's like pressed stevia leaf or some sort of extract, that's going to be an even better option than monk fruit, or swerve sweetener was one that we often used. But I would say if you could even get back to honey, maple syrup, it's going to ultimately be more satisfying for that sweet tooth and less hard on the gut. So the problem with stevia derivatives, not the true form of stevia, a lot of people have made cheap imitations now. Monk fruit, sucralose, aspartame. I think we know those things aren't good for us, but they are no calorie because they were literally designed not to break down in a body. They're no calorie because the gut cannot break them down to absorb them. They create a lot of gut distress within the body, and they actually trigger a lack of satiety. Your hunger and satiety hormones become messed up, creating this gut blood sugar disconnect as well, where it's like, I wanted something sweet, that did not do it. So I don't want to paint that sugar is the ultimate enemy here. I think that getting the right forms, natural forms of sugar, can actually be very good for the body. They help with your mineral, especially if you're getting like honey or molasses. There's tons of additional benefits to those sugars. And as your sweet tooth adjusts, a little bit of those will go a long way. So I've never liked syrup. I've always preferred honey. I think maple syrup's disgusting, but my kids love it. So good for them. But pure maple syrup, pure honey, and a little bit of that can go a long way. And it's actually satisfying that craving, because you might need some of the minerals that are in that as well. So let's talk about the gut and the blood sugar connection. I think the gut blood sugar and gut brain connection is so critical. Your microbiome directly affects how your body processes sugar and regulates your metabolism. Dysbiosis, or that imbalanced gut bacteria, can create insulin resistance and increase your inflammation. I think it's also really critical to realize that dysbiosis within the gut can drive cravings. So if you have candida in your gut, or SIFO, so small intestine fungal overgrowth, you're going to have much higher cravings for sugar than the average person. And so making sure your gut is happy and that base of your drainage funnel is happy can be such a critical role in your overall health journey. Standard Process has a really easy, like such an easy stool test where you can literally just swab your stool and send the swab in, and they'll analyze it for different types of bacteria and funguses. But if you're someone who's dealing with constant gut dysbiosis, bloat, discomfort, and someone said, what do you mean by gut testing? So like if you're not seeing a practitioner, or if you are and you're like, I still feel like something's off, like my body keeps saying parasites, but I feel like something is going on here. The body will always try to fix the loudest issue, and parasites are so loud. Dysbiosis within the gut, because there's such a diverse microbiome in there, parasites exacerbate that for sure. But if you want to get a better idea of all of the things happening in your gut, that does not mean you need to handle all of them at one time. Doing some sort of stool test or stool swab, like I was talking about with the Standard Process one, can be such an easy way to see what you're up against. Again, it doesn't mean you have to handle all of them. Usually it is a, what came first, the chicken or the egg? I'm going to handle the chicken. We'll deal with the egg later type of situation. So we can do a lot with diet, but if there is candida, if there are some more aggressive fungal elements within the gut, those organisms talk to each other, and that communication seeps its way up to the brain, and you end up craving even more sugar because that's what your gut wants. It wants to feed those organisms. EE does offer all those types of stool testing. So we have the swab, we have a literal fecal analysis that you can send into Vibrant America for a gut zoomer. I really like the Standard Process one if you're more curious. It's much more affordable. I think it's like $120 to do that, as opposed to the Vibrant America one. It's much more extensive, very extensive. It's an amazing test. They are looking at so many things, but it's like maybe in the $400 range, if not a little more. So we usually save those for the people, or recommend those more to the people that have a lot of gut dysbiosis, maybe Crohn's, colitis, IBS, IBD, like the diagnosis where it's like, there is a root cause to this. We see what you're testing for. Let's see what some of those other influencing factors can be. So if you're just like in a wondering stage, we're like, gosh, maybe it is sugar, maybe it is, I don't know. Always start with drainage. Garlic is a great option if you are wondering about excess sugar in the gut. Garlic is an amazing garlic forte or garlic from standard process is just a great place to start. It's not necessarily comfortable to take because it's going to kick stuff out, but it works so well to start to break up some of the biofilms that can create protection for these fungus elements within the body. And they really dictate your cravings, increasing your blood sugar. And then they cause inflammation, which increases your blood sugar as well. So that metabolic factor of the gut is absolutely critical. And again, I would start with pooping every day. That's where I would say, like, if you're interested in gut testing, but you're not pooping every day, start with figuring out how to poop and have a bowel movement every day. Is it hydration? Do you need some herbs? Do you need some magnesium? Are you mineral depleted? There's a reason why you're not pooping. Is it your stress and your body slowing down your gut? If that's the case, you definitely need magnesium. 90% of Americans are magnesium depleted. So actually, I would just take magnesium. Even if you're listening and you're not taking one, take it. So that is really, really critical. Start with pooping every day. And then from there, you can look at, okay, what's going on? And I recently did this standard process one, and it's just cool to see. I don't have gut discomforts, but I just wanted to see, like, okay, is my body just protecting me? Like, I don't have discomfort because it's handling these things. So it's a simple report, like 5 pages, easy peasy. But fermented foods, fiber, and probiotic rich foods. And I'll say this with a caveat, okay? I always recommend people get 30 grams of fiber a day. I recommend they get 3 different types of fermented or probiotic rich foods a day, 30 and 3, easy to remember. But if you notice you don't feel good eating those things, you likely have a histamine problem, and it's related to your liver and it's related to gut bacteria. So in that case, if you're like, I can't eat fermented or probiotic rich foods, I feel worse, or I break out in hives, or I end up with some sort of mast cell activation syndrome. Okay, you need to do a gut test. We need to get to the root of it. That's not normal. And that is definitely wreaking havoc on your metabolism. Speaking of which, yes, a good segue into the liver function and blood sugar regulation. Again, liver, one of the most overlooked pieces of blood sugar regulation. The liver has a lot of jobs. A sluggish liver can lead to poor glucose storage. It can lead to insulin resistance, can metabolically slow down your entire system. It can shut down your sex hormones. Like, love your liver and love it well. It's just got such a big job. When in doubt, love your gut and love your liver, because if you can take good care of them, they will take good care of you. The liver has a huge job. It has such a huge job. And I mean, all of the jobs it does are really important, but the toxin load that it's up against and the toxic burden on top of probably having a toxic gut. So gut, liver, very intimate connection. And the liver is so protective. The liver is so smart. It will not take more stress, more toxins, and dump them into a toxic gut. It will not do it. It's just like, okay, the environment there is not conducive to actually getting these stressors out of the body. So I'm just going to bundle these up and store them here for later. And this is where people will end up with different cysts or fibroids or spots on their liver. The non-alcoholic liver cirrhosis, it's usually a sign that your toxic burden, whether from toxins or pathogens or both, is simply too high. And starting to look at how you can support the gut so that the liver can get rid of those things the way that it was designed to do. It's just trying to protect you. It's trying to protect you. It's trying to protect the gut. It's amazing. I had a client, I just adore him. He's so great. He came in with non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, and it was in an early stage. And they said, like, if you don't do something about this now, you're going to be on this path. And his diet was not good, and he knew it. Lots of gas station food. He had your typical cirrhosis type body. So as a dietitian, we learned about this in school, but it's like those thinner people that look like they're pregnant when they're not pregnant, especially men, like that hard distended upper abdomen area. And it was so beautiful because he's a very faithful man. And when I was in there, I just felt the Holy Spirit like, this is going to change this man's life. And I said, I'm like, I hope you're okay with me saying this, but I feel like the Holy Spirit is really calling me to say, like, I get to help you on this journey, and I feel so blessed to be able to do it. And with Tudka he tested for some toxins, and his liver was very stressed and his gut was stressed. He wasn't pooping every day. It was bowel mover, Tudka, and a binder. And then really, he was so dedicated to his diet. No more gas station food. No more refined white sugar, no more refined white breads. And within 6 months, it was totally reversed. And I think that is such a testament to the power of the gut, the liver, and your diet. But his body was just trying to protect him from those metals and chemicals. He had fungal elements in his gut too, which is why I was bringing this up. So the cravings went away as we handled the gut dysbiosis, and it made it so much easier for him to stick to a healthier diet. So cool. The body can heal in the right conditions. You just have to look to create them. So reducing processed foods, alcohol, medications, when possible. This is something to consult your doctor about. One thing I always encourage people, especially if they bring in a lot of medications to EE, and I'll always ask them, like, why are you taking this? I know what it's for, but why are you taking it? A lot of times they don't know. And so I think that that's really powerful and kind of a bummer. Support liver function with bitter greens, dandelion, and castor oil packs. I did a post on Instagram about how bitters have been removed from our foods since the 70s and 80s. Bitters help to buffer sugar cravings. They really support gastric juices so that the body can digest things, so that the body can fight off unwanted dysbiosis within the gut better. And it really supports liver drainage and helping the liver fire on all cylinders. And so adding those bitters back in can be so helpful. The dandelion, arugula is a good example of a bitter green. Those ones that it's like, oh, I don't think I can eat a whole bowl of this, but you should. Some of the more colorful cabbages, like purple cabbage, green cabbage is a little bit on the sweeter side, but that purple is a little more pungent. Lemon, ginger, things like that are really, and green apple, like the greens contain more of those bitters. Anything that kind of makes you like radishes, like your mouth salivate a little bit when you think about biting into it. Those are so good. So what that salivary enzymatic reaction is doing is it's getting your gut ready to break down foods. It's waking up the stomach. It's telling the stomach is communicating, the enzymes within the stomach is communicating with the liver. It's saying, hey, stuff is coming. We're going to need bile. Food's coming. We need bile to break it down. And so those gastric juices really help prime the gut for optimization. And they also help manage and level off the pH so that it can fight infections better. And I love castor oil packs, sauna, things like that. So good. The role of minerals in blood sugar balance. I mean, magnesium, potassium, chromium, all critical for insulin sensitivity. And you're going to get more of those from fruits and vegetables than you are from artificial products. They're more bioavailable in whole food sources. 90% of people are deficient in magnesium, which plays a key role. It has 500 jobs in a body. And it plays a key role in glucose regulation, or 300, I'm sorry, 500 is liver. 300 enzymatic pathways are regulated by magnesium, and one of those pathways includes glucose regulation. So increasing magnesium-rich foods, those dark leafy greens, nuts, seeds, low sugar like cacao or dark chocolate, really great magnesium-rich source. Electrolyte support, I love electrolytes, and then whole food mineral supplementation. Your girl is never beyond throwing in a magnesium supplement. I think for chronic stress, it's important to realize that people's magnesium and minerals in general deplete so much faster. If you're stressed, you're eating through minerals at such a fast pace that your body's simply doing it to try to keep you alive. That it doesn't have the minerals it needs to regulate blood sugar. So again, these trickle effects of your stress is not only increasing your sugar, increasing your cortisol, and increasing the way you're eating through minerals, but those minerals then play into how your blood sugar is able to come back down and re-regulate. So it's very cyclic, but zoom out and look at the body as a whole, because all of these things in conjunction, if you can begin to balance them out, makes such a huge difference. Ashley had asked, what are my favorite liver supplements? Livco from MediHerb, one of my favorites. KL Support from Cellcore, one of my favorites. Depending on if it's liver, gallbladder, choline, or cholecol from Standard Process, I'm always reaching for. I love to put kids on choline. It is one of those things that, while it's not bitters, it is sour. So you're puckering up, you're priming the gut. It helps aid in fat digestion and absorption. So it's really helping kids and adults with those bile salts and helping them absorb fat and protein the way that their body was designed to do. But our world, because of toxins, has inhibited. So that is such a good one. Such a good one. I also I like berberine or milk thistle. I'm trying to think of some of the individual herbs. I like Livco because it has a synergistic effect. It has like all of them, which I love. Schisandra, I've been tripping up when I say that lately. Is also really good for just detoxing the liver as well. And like I had mentioned here, it's really important to note that your blood sugar is directly linked to your mental health and well-being. Your blood sugar and your cortisol are directly linked to your mental health and well-being. Unstable blood sugar has been numerously and countlessly directly linked to anxiety, depression, and brain fog. Blood sugar swings can cause surges and crashes in your neurotransmitters, which work with your serotonin, your feel good, your dopamine, that motivation and that pat yourself on the back satiety that you feel. The blood sugar and the increase of inflammation from blood sugar shuts these things down. So balancing blood sugar with slow burning carbs, adequate protein can really help stabilize your mood and mental clarity. And I think everybody wants that, right? So I think there's so much to unpack when it comes to it. And I know I gave you a lot tonight. So let's just talk about a few places that you can start. Just 3 steps to start resetting your blood sugar and restoring your metabolism. Start with protein in the morning and get morning sunlight. Do not look at your phone first thing in the morning. That immediately causes stress in your body. So try to get 20 minutes of sunlight if you can. Be so good. If you can't, that's fine. But just first rays of light, make sure it's sun in the eyeballs. Your body will know, okay, it's the blue light from the sun. It's time to wake up. That talks to your cortisol, your hypothalamus, your pituitary. They talk to your adrenals. They're saying, hey, wake up. We can do this today. It's going to be great. And try to swap out at least like 5 of your 7 breakfasts with some meat and eggs. That's like what I start my day with every day. So helpful, so critical, makes such a big difference. Begin to reduce hidden endocrine disruptors, swapping out plastic cutting boards for bamboo. That's one that you're directly like eating. So I would 10 out of 10 recommend that right away. Try to reduce your EMF exposure, clean up your skincare, remove sneaky blood sugar bombs. I usually encourage people in 2 ways when it comes to beginning to swap stuff out in their home. First, with the microplastics and plastic cutting boards, like just get those gone. Good, easy start. If your pans are not high on the to-do list right now, okay, fine. Wait on that. Let's start with then what you're putting on your body in the shower. That's usually where I recommend people start because you're going to get more absorbed through open porous skin than non-porous. Obviously, our skin is always porous, right? But if you're taking a hot shower, all of those follicles open up, all of those skin cells open up, and they're much more receptive to the permeation of whatever you're putting on it. And so swapping out those things that you're using on a warm body is going to make a much faster impact on your toxin load than maybe the lotion you're applying once you're out of the shower and you've cooled off. All of those things eventually you'll want to swap out, but you can swap out half of your stuff for more natural solutions like vinegar, coconut oil, things like that that are not highly expensive. Like I had said, though, when it comes to these swaps, I've always had the attitude, it doesn't need to be all or nothing, but you're either going to pay for something now or you're going to pay for it later with your health. And so I'd rather be as proactive and preventative as possible with how I'm spending my dollars. And so far for our family, it's really, really paid off and we're so blessed by that. And then just for your meals, produce, protein, healthy fat. Produce is going to have, it's going to be the way God gave it to us on this earth. And you're going to pair it with protein and healthy fat, and your blood sugars are going to be nice and stable because of it. You're not going to be able to avoid, processed carbs 100% of the time, but I would shoot for, if you're just getting started on this and you have some sort of bread or pasta with every meal, just swap it out at one meal to start, and then move to the next meal, and then move to the next meal. And then look at your snacks. It doesn't need to be perfect, 80-20, 80-20, 80-20, but you'll find you just feel better. Your mood, your energy, your mental clarity, your focus, your stamina, they're all going to go through the roof when you stabilize your blood sugar. A lot of people don't even realize how much those highs and lows impact their ability to function well throughout the day. And so if I can get my clients to begin to swap out their meals for whole foods and then produce protein, healthy fat at every meal, and then drink electrolytes or take magnesium, oh my gosh, brain fog gone. Like within days. It's just phenomenal. So such an easy shift. It's definitely different. You're going to have to get creative with your foods, or you don't have to at all. I never got creative. We have boring meals all the time, and my kids are used to it. So if you're also wanting a little bit of help to create an impact, I'm super excited about this. My husband and I are doing it right now. We are kicking off a 10-day blood sugar reset on April 21st. So the cost of it is there's the products through standard process, and then I'm building a 10-day course and practice better as I'm going through it. But what I really love about this, what makes me really excited, is that we have one for stress and we have one for eating habits. So if you're like, I am not stressed, I'm just addicted to sugar, that would be option one. My eating habits need an overhaul. Option two is my stress is slowly taking over. I know that's impacting my health and I want to fix that. So I'll talk about those in a second. And we are now equipped with continuous blood glucose monitors at EE. Their order is coming, and I am so excited about having those. I think that even just for a month to get an idea of how your blood sugar is acting and reacting, it can be so critical. So what does it look like? It's 10 days of whole unprocessed foods. Standard process is amazing. So you have access to a ton of recipes that are delicious and full of protein and good vegetables and clean options. So fruits, veggies, lean proteins. I'm incorporating fat still. So I'm having full fat dairy and I'm having butter and olive oil. And they don't say anything about cutting those out, but it is more of cutting out the refined carbohydrates, artificial sweeteners, sugar, chemical additives, processed meat. So anything with nitrates, nitrites, you don't want those anyway. Fried foods, caffeine, and soda. So my husband, we went on vacation, not really vacation. I went to Standard Process. I went to their Nutrition Innovation Center, which was phenomenal, so amazing. But we stayed in a hotel. And usually when we go places now, and I'm sure this is the same for a lot of you, you stay in an Airbnb. So you have access to make food the way you want to make it, right? So for the first leg of our trip, we were staying in an Airbnb. For the last 4 nights, we stayed in a hotel. And you can only do so much when you're staying in a hotel with the mini fridge. It was terrible. It was terrible. And I have never heard my husband say the word inflamed so much in my life. He's like, I'm just so inflamed. I am so inflamed. I do not feel good. And my kids, by the end of the weekend, they're like, we are sick of eating out. We don't like this. And we were doing the best that we could, right? But it just, you can only do so much in certain situations. So pat yourself on the back for that. And then just get back on track when you're home. And so he was all on board with doing this. We're on day 3. We feel great. Definitely some detoxing and we eat very clean 90% of the time, but the products just work exceptionally well. So he's like, I needed it. I don't care. I was chlorine and fried food. That's not for us. And a bonus, so you're going to have shakes with whole foods ingredients and supplements to support your sugar handling, whether it's cravings or stress, through the day while deep cleaning those cells. So it's a double-edged sword here, and we'll talk about it for a second. A bonus would be 30 to 40 minutes of exercise daily, not a must, but something that I would encourage to further help your blood sugars as well. So let's talk about what's in them. The eating habits one. So each of them has this core, the SP Complete and SP Cleanse. And SP Cleanse combines 20 unique whole foods to help support the body's normal toxin removal processes. So it's not forcing a detox. It's just giving your body good foods to push those things out. It helps support the kidney, liver, gallbladder. It is involved in healthy digestive function. It helps regulate natural detox pathways. So another really good liver support if you're really looking for toxin elimination. And then the complete is one of our favorite things at EE, especially for kiddos that are picky and they don't want to eat whole foods or they struggle with eating whole foods. This is a great protein option that has whole foods built into it. So I'll do like a scoop of SP Complete and a scoop of protein powder, and like I feel like I'm doing so many good things for my kids. But SP Complete is whole food. It has amino acids. So it's just really going to support your cells to the mitochondria. It's going to support your immune health, muscle growth and repair, antioxidants, healthy liver function, toxin elimination. It's really, really just so good at curbing those cravings because you're giving your cells very bioavailable food to absorb, which is just so critical. So then for those of you that are addicted to sugar, then you feel like your sugar handling is off, Diaplex is the option for you. So it's a chromium supplement. It helps support sugar handling and keeping your blood sugars within a healthy range. It encourages that blood sugar metabolism, and it's involved, chromium is heavily involved in carbohydrate metabolism. So it's just going to really help support your pancreatic function in a very intentional way. It's also going to support the bowel function. So your gut is going to be working better, and the gallbladder as well. It has a combination of a couple of things, Zypan, Arginex, AF beta food, beta col. So all of those are supporting your pH, your liver, and your kidneys. So drainage, drainage, drainage. It's also giving you pituitrophin and pancreas support. So pituitary and pancreas support to support how that body is talking. So even though it's more for sugar cravings, it's also really helping with the stress response as well. And then Gymnema. So this is a bitter. Gymnema is an exceptional product. I love it. I've put people on it for a very long time. If you suck on it for 30 seconds, the way that bitters work and why it's such a shame that they're removing them from our diet is that it shuts down your sugar receptors on your tongue and it makes sugar taste worse. And so you literally will not want to eat or crave sugar. So for my really sugar addicted clients, I would have them get a little bottle and suck on a pill for 30 seconds and then swallow it because it's doing a lot of great things for the sugar handling within your body as well. It's really supporting your liver, but it will get rid of those sweets cravings like boop, nobody's business. Because the next thing you eat that's full of sugar, you literally it won't taste good to you. And then for those of us, I say those of us because this is the program my husband and I are doing, whose stress is impacting. We're actually doing a combo. I'm doing the SP Complete, SP Cleanse, Diaplex because I'm pregnant. And then I'm doing Black Cumin Seed Forte because I can't do the whole metabolic complex being pregnant. And Drew's doing ashwagandha. So Diaplex and ashwagandha. Just because we had been on vacation and we're going to be on vacation. So the metabolic complex is amazing. It contains fenugreek, black cumin seed, bitter melon, cinnamon. So you're getting some of those bitters to really support sugar receptors and sugar handling, but it's also really intentionally supporting your liver, your pancreas, and your adrenals while calming the gut down and helping the gut work the way that God intended the gut to work. And then ashwagandha, I think a lot of people know this, but it's an adaptogenic herb. So great for handling stress. Ashwagandha Forte has ashwagandha licorice and skullcap, as well as Korean ginseng, which work together to really help with your liver, the stress from your liver, your cortisol handling, your adrenal function and form. A lot of people get nervous about licorice and blood pressure, but that has been, I don't want to say debunked, but if the licorice is pure enough, it's not going to create that vasodilation reaction that people are nervous about. And so that's why hands down the Medi herb is the way to go. But it's also going to stabilize and support your mood. So this program for especially women who are like, I cannot lose weight. I cannot get rid of this midsection. I can tell my cortisol is so high. The way that the Metabol and the ashwagandha are designed and will work together to decrease that is just so impactful and so powerful. And then if you even want to take it up a level, this is not necessary to do. But like I said, I've been doing my continuous blood glucose monitor and I am obsessed with it. I love it. I love seeing how what I'm doing affects it. I love how seeing stress affects it. It's just going to give you real-time feedback. What I like about the Stilo brand is if you don't have the app open, it's not connecting via Bluetooth to anything. You can turn off your Bluetooth. So again, no EMF exposure. This is definitely not something if you don't have diabetes, I would do long term, but I think a month or two of getting an idea of where your blood sugars are at can be very powerful. So you can see, what are my blood sugars doing? Is there some degree of insulin resistance here, which so many people with hormone disease have? So let's figure that out. And by getting this window into your body, it can really help you stabilize your energy and mood, and even kind of attack those cravings and see what could be causing it. So you can pre-order it today for pickup at Eating Elevated. You'll then gain access to the Practice Better program after. I'll just email you it after. This is not like not a sales pitch. I just want to invite you guys to join this with us. My team will be doing it. I'm doing it now and I love it. There's something to be said about a simple and straightforward cleanse that is safe for pregnancy, safe for anyone. My kids want to do it next time, which I'm super excited about. So easy peasy, 10 days after Easter, which most people will be ready to kick the sugar habit out anyway. So that is all I have for you tonight, you guys. Do you have any questions for me? I've loved the questions coming through. So helpful. I didn't miss any. Amazing. Well, like I said, I will send this out after with a link to all of those things. So if you have any questions about some of the other things I mentioned, feel free to ask. And just keep in mind, one step in any direction is still a step. So looking to address your Wi-Fi could be a really good place to start if you're feeling overwhelmed with switching anything up. Oh, and someone said, can you suggest some fermented foods? Absolutely. I love sauerkraut. I live and breathe by sauerkraut. It's like my favorite. My kids, spoonful of sauerkraut. Pickles that are actually fermented pickles. So like the Cleveland pickles are a really good brand. And you can get Cleveland kraut. Pickled red onions are a really great option. You can really ferment. I've made fermented salsa before. That's delicious. And then your typical kombuchas, as long as they're a good brand. Yogurts, sour cream is a fermented food as long as it's well done. There is a brand at Whole Foods that has non-pasteurized sour cream or dips. So those are really good options. They're going to carry a little bit more of the enzymatic benefit that you're looking for. Kefir is another good option as well. So easy peasy, nothing crazy. It doesn't need to be delicious. It also doesn't need to be excessive. Like I will just have a spoonful of sauerkraut twice a day if I'm running low on ideas. Or I'll just mix it up, but it's a great way to diversify that microbiome. Again, if you notice you have those things and you don't feel good, it's likely a sign that there's some histamine intolerances there, and that would be a good sign to really love on your liver and then get your gut checked to see why your liver is stressed and creating that histamine response. Great question. 30 grams of fiber, 3 fermented or probiotic rich foods a day. And a good magnesium. Yeah, absolutely. Trimag, I'm trying a new one right now. I'm trying the Cellcore Trimag. It's good. My other favorite is the Easy Mag from Standard Process. I think by far and away that one's my favorite. It's a whole food magnesium. It has Swiss chard, again, another bitter, so that's probably why I love it. I have taken that one now since it was before they made it a pill, it was a powder. And it just is such a beautiful source of whole food magnesiums in every bioavailable form. So it's not a specific glycinate, L-threonate, because you see that a lot. Standard Process is really fixated on whole food nutrition, which is why I think if you can get more of those products, then you end up craving more whole foods. So Easy Meg is great. Trimag from Cellcore, also great. And then another option would be Mag ER from Mother Earth Labs, magnesium extended release. I find that one works really well in the gut. So if someone is like constipated or not pooping every day. That is a really good one. Okay, I missed the first liver one you mentioned, Livco. In the presentation, I think I said Livco, and there's also Livaplex, and then there's KL support from Cellcore. That's a good one. Any of those bitters are really good for the liver. Cholecol, choline, good for the liver. You can be really, especially if you're seeing a practitioner, you can be really specific for what the liver needs. I find that the liver is so critical for menopause and perimenopause, especially if there's stress. So if a woman is struggling with high stress, low, low everything else, like low libido, low motivation, high brain fog, hot flashes, Livco is exceptional for that. Exceptional for that. And I find it actually really helps men too, because it's herbs, it's adaptogenic, so it can really help men with their testosterone as well. It's a great product. I've never had a product work so quickly for hot flashes, except Tudka. Tudka from Cellcore also works really quickly for hot flashes, but I think when your liver is stagnant, it causes that stress. So opening up those liver and bile ducts with those two products can make such a big difference. Great, great questions. Any other questions? You are so welcome. I'm getting better at getting on time with these. It's 8:24. I had 90 minutes blocked off. So yay, you too. So we can definitely begin. Yes, we will have the continuous glucose monitors available. Someone asked, will you have the continuous glucose monitors available for a while? Yes. We plan on having some in stock now for forever. I think they're a powerful tool into people's health, and no matter where they're at, it can be just exceptionally helpful to see what your body's doing and what is really impacting. Is it your diet, or is it stress in your life that you're reacting to? Or that your body's trying to protect you from, which is a more critical way to spin that stress. But even if it is stress, you have to start to look at, okay, what can I then do that's actually going to impact this, that can bring it down if I can't immediately change the stressor? And that's where those tools can be extremely powerful. And they're just like almost everything at EE. HSA can totally cover it. And the cost of the continuous glucose monitor is $99 for a 30-day supply. So that's 2 monitors. They stick, I have mine right on the back of my arm, and super easy to pop in. It just was so simple. It did not hurt at all. And it lasts 15 days, and it tells you right on the app. I think I can pull it up. It'll tell you right on the app, you've had your glucose monitor plugged in for 2 days. It has 13 days left on its life. So really, really, again, I'm a data nerd, so I love to see it. I love to see how what I think I'm doing is helping my body. And so that is always empowering to me. Someone else asked, if it's diet and stress, what's more important if there's a good balance you need to focus on? Such a good question. That is such a good question. And it's one that I will leave you to determine. No, I'm kidding. Everyone has the ability to choose for themselves what's more important, right? And in those cases, I always encourage people to handle stress first. Always. I think stress has such a detrimental effect on our body. You can be eating a perfect diet and stress can be wrecking you. So if you're eating an imperfect diet on top of stress, it's wrecking you. So start with stress and go from there, because stress doesn't usually get fixed in a day, right? There's usually complex reasons behind it. There's more to it than just swapping stuff out at the grocery store. And so because it takes longer to unpack and address, that is where I encourage people to start. Sometimes that alone is overwhelming for them. So if that is how you feel when you hear me say that, then start with food, do what's less overwhelming, and go from there. Do what you can actually begin to do to take steps in the right direction for both of them. But if you've seeing a practitioner, if you've gotten blood work, if you know within your body that stress is impacting your health, high blood pressure, your minerals are usually off or out of whack or maybe low, your thyroid might be hypo or hyper, your liver might be inflamed. Like those are all signs that you're carrying too heavy of a load. And we're quick again to want to change diet, but if you're living a highly stressful life, you can be, and I'm such an example of that. Like we are so clean with the way we eat, and my stress absolutely wrecked me. And I can't imagine where I would have been if I wouldn't have already been taking care of my diet. Thank you, Jesus, that it was something that we were already doing and aware of in our home. But it's it's such a thing that takes time, that takes setting intentional boundaries, that takes testing where you're being called to next. I think we've become so, in our world, stress is just a norm. Running everywhere is a norm. Having high expectations to always be places is a norm. Having days off and having them packed with stuff is a norm. That when we actually want to and feel called to rest, we feel lazy. And so I just want to combat that a little and encourage setting healthy boundaries so that you can be fully present wherever you're at. And that makes being busy less stressful if you're not thinking of the next 5 things. So stress, 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 100%, because your body it will just self implode if you don't handle that. And it's doing such a good job of keeping you alive. Like it's when people are stressed and they're hitting these walls with their health, I always encourage them to just take a second and be exceptionally grateful that their body is showing them that it is not okay. And it is showing them in probably a very gentle way, or it might be screaming if you've been ignoring it for a while, that like we're carrying a load that's too heavy to be carrying. There's something that needs to shift. There's something that needs to change. And sometimes that makes us uncomfortable. The Lord did not make us for comfort. In the spirit, we should always be challenged to be better, but we should be able to downregulate. We should be able to process our day. We should be able to be fully present with our family. We should be able to flip our phone over for a little while and be with whoever we're with. And if there's something that's keeping you from doing that, address it. Can I take the supplements if I'm taking rhodiola? Yes, absolutely. And it's a great addition. That's such a great product for adrenal health, endocrine health in general. Great product. And that's a good question in general. If you're seeing a practitioner or you're taking other supplements, I usually leave the ball in the court of the client. If there are certain products they want to keep taking while they do it, if they want to keep taking their whole program while they do it, totally up to them. I am currently doing, like I had said, what I'm doing. And I am still taking my products, and I'm taking smaller amounts of them because I can tell I don't need as much. Which is great. And then afterwards, I'll just get redosed for what I need and call it a day. So I just feel better. I know when I'm taking my thyroid stuff and with my pregnancy. And so I've been taking that still with it. But it's amazing how much the supplements by themselves, because you're taking a higher amount of the SP cleanse, like 5 capsules with breakfast, lunch, and dinner, which seems like a lot, but you're not going to need a binder. You're probably not going to need to take para stuff during that time. You will be kicking out a lot of stuff from your body, and you'll feel really, really, really good. Really good, especially when you're also omitting the sugar. We eat a pretty clean diet, like I had said, so I expected some discomforts, but really I haven't had much. I can just tell like, oh, stuff's going that needed to go. Thank goodness. Great questions, you guys. All right. Well, thank you all so much for coming. This will be uploaded to YouTube. And I will send out the link for that as well. If you guys have any questions, shoot me an email. Otherwise, be well. And thank you so much for hopping on. Big blessings to everybody.